Maddi Kempf, you are a YouTuber. You started this brand and you started a clothing line. And I personally have been following you for a while. And I really find that we as creatives, you can learn so much by watching other people, seeing what they've been doing, and just them expressing themselves online. And for you, it's been YouTube. So I'm really interested, what sparked this idea and just that vulnerability of wanting to share yourself online and on YouTube?
Well, it kind of started originally because I'll try to make this short, but I'm not very good at that.
Don't make it
um,
short. Let's hear it.
so, when I was in college, I did the honors program for my degree, and part of that is you have to do a research project. And luckily, you can pick whatever research project you want to do and sort of design it for yourself. And so, naturally, I wanted to do something around rodeo. And a friend of mine owned a rodeo marketing company. And so the idea is that you pick a company and sort of do a free research project for them and help them solve a problem. So what her and I were trying to find out is, what rodeo athletes need from a marketing company. And I quickly realized that there's like people in my class had no idea what rodeo was. I grew up in Kelowna, BC, which is not a rodeo town at all. And so it was like, okay, people that aren't involved in the sport don't know what it is. So this was sort of starting the YouTube thing was originally sort of my way of contributing to a little more knowledge about what barrel racing and rodeo and all that is and the life that goes with it. And my original idea was that people that weren't rodeo people would watch and learn, but it wasn't really what my market ended up being. It's more people that also do it and are involved in the sport already. But it's been really kind of a fun thing because I think a lot of people learn like they're not alone when things go wrong. So it happens to all of us. So I try to, keep it as real as possible and share the good and the bad of being involved in rodeo and barrel racing because we know not every day is good. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And then it's just sort of morphed as time's gone on. And a little bit more of my personal life and story has got involved in it as well. Cause it's just kind of, that was part of keeping it real is it just can't just only be about horses. It's sort of like, the rest of that contributes to how you compete in that as well. So yeah.
Exactly. Just the whole well-roundedness of what it is to be a barrel racer and to be pursuing those dreams. And I love that, like, it is so much that you have to show the good and the bad and the ugly of what is involved and not just those highlights. Because yeah, like just that community aspect is so important for all of us as the creative and as the people watching and consuming, just to know that we aren't in it alone. Even sometimes barrel racing and sports or horses in general, I think is a pretty like it's a super independent sport. Like you can just you get a horse and you do it, but then overcoming all those obstacles, it's really nice to have that community aspect. So what has it been like growing that community and kind of just putting yourself in that position? Was there kind of obstacles you had to face to become and just be that open with yourself and showing your life like that?
A little bit. I think everybody, lots of people say, oh, I don't care what people think, but we all do at least a little bit. So it took me a while to get through that because, whenever you put yourself out there, there's going to be judgment. But something I've realized, and this is in my personal life as I've got older too, now I'm in my 30s. So, that sort of changes as you go through life. Not that you don't care what people think, but it's also like, it's really not relevant. Obviously I'd like to think people to think good things of me. But if they decide they don't like me for whatever reason or what I'm doing doesn't fit with them, then they don't have to take it in. That's the beauty of this world. There's an unfollow button. So, it was kind of a scary thing in the beginning, but also as time's gone on, I kind of have just learned to not really care. I know that my intentions are good and I want to put it out into the world. And if someone misperceives that, that's on them. So, you won't please everybody. It's just life.
Exactly. And you're just kind of knowing like you're doing it for a better reason anyways. Like if it's
Right.
fulfilling for you and it feels right in your heart, it's like that's all you can do, and just hope that other people can hopefully get something out of it.
Absolutely. It's one of those, like, that's just, I don't know, life in general, I think, is knowing that your mission and your intentions are good. And, as long as you know that about yourself, what everybody else thinks or perceives is kind of irrelevant. But that took me a while to get to that place. And I'm also grateful I grew up where social media wasn't the focus. Like I would think it would be more difficult as maybe a 13-year-old girl today, because it's just a different world than it was
Mhm.
when I was a kid. So I think that's been a blessing that social media didn't become a thing until a little bit later in my life personally. So, but that's sort of my advice to anybody is just do what you feel is right for you and put
Mhm.
good into the world. And then, what your intention is the most important. Everything else doesn't really matter.
Exactly. And that just kind of made me think of just that idea of like how powerful social media is. I personally, like, I'm in the same boat, like, I'm in my late 20s, so I didn't grow up with all that, and I kind of feel for the kids now that they're so consumed with just so much, and it's totally picking and choosing what you want to put, like, into your world and just
Hmm.
digest for yourself. The one thing that I've come across that I'm curious as well for you is being or trying to almost like not necessarily build the authority, but let's say people are watching you. And it's almost to me, it's like sometimes a little bit of like a fear of success or fear of having a big following. Did you ever encounter that as you were growing and then you almost get scared of what you're putting out there because you start developing that following, people start listening to you? Did you ever have a bit of a crossroad there where it was difficult?
Not really. And here's why is that I've gone through some big losses in my life, and those losses have really taught me that life is just short. So, fear of the things that you want is just like we get in our own way so
Oh yeah.
quickly. And, I've done it plenty and I still do. But I think now I'm more conscious of when it does happen to be like, why would I stop myself from achieving what I want?
Mhm.
And, I mean, I still, in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to the size of my following, is very small. I mean, you look at a lot of people that are in the hundreds of thousands and millions of followers. I can't speak to what it feels like in that instance. When you're around like the 10,000 follower mark, I mean, the town I live in is small and it's twice that size. So
Yeah.
you think about it from that context, it's still
Mhm.
not a ton of people. Um, but again, it goes back to your intention. I think as long as, just go forward with what feels right in your heart and don't let, um, you know, the little voices that are telling you you can't, you just kind of need to cut them out
Mhm.
because again, life's short. So, take those opportunities and run with them.
Mhm. Exactly. And just all those lessons I find, because I always relate everything to barrel racing and being a better competitor, and I'm sure you do as well. Can you, like, just some of those lessons that you learn in life through going through this, have a lot of them really translated in between fields, like that you think have made you a better competitor?
Yeah, and horses teach me a lot every day, and I'm sure it's the same for you. Like I have a horse right now, and she's very much a mirror of me, and it's really interesting because she makes me absolutely insane some days, and it's like because this is stuff that I do as a person, so that I, maybe annoys myself about something I do or whatever. But I've learned a lot more patience as I've got older too, and rode more horses. And patience has never been something like that's come naturally to me whenever I want something or want to do something. I want it right now and I want to go after it. And with horses, you can't rush them. They have to be ready in their own time. And, being on a few of them has allowed me to do that because I have a few that are more competitive and a few that aren't quite there yet. And the ones that aren't quite there yet, they've really taught me to just let things develop in their own time. And I think that applies to our own lives too.
Mhm.
When you have goals or whatever it may be, growing a business or wanting to move forward in your career or become a better and stronger competitor and win more, like those things, we have to do the work, but it also has to pan out in its own time. I feel like the universe or God has a plan for us. And, we have to put the pieces in motion, but it
Mhm.
also will develop as it's supposed to. So there's a lot of kind of overlap in all of those things if you look for it. So, and just appreciating all of it for where it's at too. So, even the other day I was saying, like, I feel like I'm so far from where I really want to be with my horses and like the goals I have long term. But if you look at like where I personally was even 5 years ago, like so much has changed and I'm moving strongly towards where I want to go. So just appreciating for your own self, how far you've come, what you've learned along the way,
Mhm.
and, looking forward, but also being present in the moment right now too.
Absolutely. Wow, there's so many good takeaways with what you just said. And it's so true. And I think all of us are guilty of some of those not so beneficial aspects, such as, not thinking you're in the right place. And I think there's a lot of power in really allowing and trusting your timing and trusting
Hmm.
just where you are, and knowing that, like, if you stay true to yourself and stay true to your goals and your visions for your future, they're gonna, like you said, kind of like the universe or God has a different plan for you. And I think if you just, I call it watering the dream. I heard it from Oprah and I like love it, where you just like every day you're just watering it. You're just kind of
That's awesome.
manifesting and creating it. And then you're prepared for it. So it's like
Hmm.
you do all the work you possibly can, but then you kind of let the results and you let the dream just kind of unfold how it's going to. And you just be okay with that. And I think for you, I really like that kind of watching, like you kind of create the brand and then you have a new purpose. And then you started with creating your Level Up apparel that seems like it's taking off and has been a really big part of your journey as well. So just to talk and dive into that a little bit, how did that all kind of transcend and create?
So Level Up is my clothing brand, Level Up Apparel, and the idea behind it, the main logo is two triangles, and they point up with the idea that when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
Mhm,
And I kind of created it in a time when I needed it. I
mhm,
needed that reminder in my own life of, you know, things are going to fall apart and life's going to be really hard sometimes, but we have the ability to take those things and become better from them. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt and it's not difficult, but we kind of have to keep going. That's, you
mhm.
kind of don't have a choice. So you can either fall down and stay down there or just, rise up from all of it and become better. So
Mhm,
Level Up kind of was a concept that I needed personally. And I always really liked cool t-shirts. So it was sort of like, oh, do I want to go into the apparel space? Because it's extremely competitive. But then it was one of those things like just because something's going to be difficult doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. So
mhm,
um, it's kind of grown as time's gone on. I started with ball caps and still do the ball caps, and now just have some kind of fun t-shirts and that all sort of have a Western flair to them. I like everything to be really unique, one of a kind, like you're not going to see it on anyone else. It's every design is really specific to this brand. And I have a couple really great graphic designers that I can describe something and draw them really awful pictures of it and show them where I want everything. And then they just bring it to life. So it's kind of a group effort to make the things that we've been doing. But that's the whole concept behind it is, cool t-shirts, but also your reminder every day that you can keep going and you can get better because life's going to throw hard things at you. So what you do with that is up to you.
mhm. So true. And that's what you just said, kind of like having the control. It's like your decision to level up, like stay
Absolutely. Yeah.
there. I like that
Yeah.
story. And it's a good reminder for everybody. You look at it, you're like, I'm at, like you said, rock bottom. That's so cool. I had no idea that that's kind of like the vision behind it. So
Hmm.
must keep you pretty busy. Like, so you're doing horses. I'm assuming that's kind of like like the main goal is
Yes.
horses. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a lot on my plate and I always do. I'm not very good at saying no. So, and truthfully, I like the diversity. I like to do
Uh-huh.
different things.
Mhm,
I don't know that I would ever just have one, like all my eggs in one basket. It's just not really how I operate.
mhm,
But yeah, I have 5 horses right now. And they're all my own personal horses. I occasionally take an outside horse, but honestly, I just have too much going on to do that. And then Level Up, of course, which I've learned there's certain things I can hire out to make that function better because I was trying to do everything on my own. And I've learned that's just not a good thing.
mhm,
You can do everything, but you can't do it all well. So,
mhm,
picking my strengths and what I can do to help, and then hiring out parts of it have been good. And then my husband and I own a livestock panel company as well. So, that's what we do in Arizona in the winters. We sell panels, and then we sell them in Washington in the summer. So,
mhm.
luckily, him and I do that together. So it's not all on me for that one, but it's plenty enough to keep me busy. That's for sure.
Uh-huh, yeah, and I think diversity is good. Like, I kind of am the same, like, I feel like I could never just stick with one thing. Like, maybe I'm like, "Do I have commitment problems, or am I just, like, overcommitted in a lot of things?" Like, it's, like, ironic how you're kinda like that, then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, I have a lot of things actually that I have going on." But yeah, keeps it interesting, right? And just like you.
Well, that's exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And again with that, like, I'm sure just, like, learning as you're going, that's kind of, to me, how I see it, like, it's like you're just kinda evolving and developing as you go, and how things change, and, like, you get different visions or different ideas and stuff like that, or just different lessons that you're learning and thinking that you wanna maybe pivot a little bit or change and stuff. So One thing I do want to talk about is I saw the one video of you saying that took like a 3-day drive to go to was it the ruby buckle or the pink buckle?
The pink buckle.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's so cool. Can we like get a backstory of this? Like how did that like the idea to go? How did it start with the horses? And then how did it pan out?
Okay, so I've gone to the Pink Buckle twice now. So I live in Washington State, and it's a 3-day drive to get to Oklahoma, and it's a long ways. There's like a part in day 3 of the driving. I'm like, whose idea was this?
Yeah, are we crazy?
Uh, right? Yeah, gonna go a little bit nuts. But I kind of ended up with the Pink Buckle horse by fluke. I didn't actually know what it was when it first developed. I never really paid attention to like incentives and that kind of thing because I always just wanted rodeo.
Mhm.
And Ryan Padone, who's a good friend of mine, she's really a very business smart barrel racer. She's a trainer by trade and raises horses, but is just really smart about it from a business aspect. So I was looking to breed one of my horses, and I was talking to her about like a stud combination, and she said, "Oh, I wouldn't do anything that isn't pink buckle." And I'm like, "Well, what's that?" And she explained to me what the pink buckle incentive is, and then by fluke, I ended up with a horse that was a pink buckle horse a few months after her, and I talked, and I thought, "Oh, he's pink buckle. Oh, okay, that's the thing she was talking about." So I kind of looked into it. I wasn't able to go the first year I had this horse. And the second year was the COVID year, when everything was closed down and there really wasn't a lot of, like, we had no rodeos in the Northwest. Um, and, a handful of barrel races, but really not much. And so I kind of said to my husband, I said, "Hey, I really want to go to Oklahoma for this race. I didn't get to go to anything this year. And
Mhm.
there's so much money at it and all this." And he said, "Yeah, go, whatever." So a friend and I went and did the 3-day drive. And it is such a cool event. It was amazing. We had so much fun. It was just, yeah, really, really a good one to go to, and so much money. And then my horse actually won. I think it was second in one of the D's one day and won like $8,000. So of course I was like, I'm going back to that.
Oh yeah.
That was worth the drive. Um, so the following year, being this past October, a couple months ago, I planned to go again. And the friend that I'd went with previously, her pink buckle horse was injured. So it was kind of like I was going to have to go by myself, which I'm not scared to drive by myself, but that's just a long ways on your own and being the only driver. And
Mhm.
so my dad actually flew into Salt Lake City and met me along the way and drove down with me, which was so fun. And he used to drive me to all my high school rodeos and stuff
Mhm.
growing up. So it was like a nostalgic trip,
Mhm.
I graduated in 2008. So it's been a while since I've done those road trips. Um, but yeah, so he came with me and I took 2 horses this time, and they have more side pots and things this year. So I entered both of mine in what's called the owner rider side pot. So if you own the horse on the papers and then are also riding them in the race, you can enter this incentive side pot. They both had good runs on the first day, but we're just not really in the right spot for the D's. And of course, they pay out a lot in the average and then day money too. So I thought, okay, we got tomorrow in the average. And I knocked barrels on both horses on the Sunday, and I was just beside myself. And obviously it happens, but it's just like you watch so much money just slip through your fingers, like, oh my God.
Why
So,
today?
right. I had to pout about it for a while because it was
Mhm.
just awful. And then I remembered, I'm like, oh, I entered that side pot. And I actually didn't know how it worked. I just knew it was a side pot with lots of money in it. So
Mhm.
I looked and it was your fastest time. So I thought, oh, I'm still able to win money in the side pot when all said and done because obviously my previous day would be my faster times. And so they took a few days to post it. And so I'm just eagerly awaiting, like, this is sort of my last chance at anything. And Claude, who's like my main barrel horse, he ended up winning the 3D side pot and won almost
Oh my
$8,000. And so, of
gosh.
course, I'm freaking out, like, oh, this is great. Um, and then my husband was making fun of me so bad because I apparently don't pay enough attention because I didn't realize until about a week ago that he also won a buckle and a saddle with that side pot.
Oh my god.
So yeah, I had no idea. I thought the saddles were only for the average. And sure
Uh,
enough, we have a girl that's taking care of our place in Washington. And she sends me a picture. She's like, oh, this came in the mail today. And I'm like, oh, can you open that? It was from the pink buckle. And she sends me the picture of the saddle certificate and the buckle. I'm like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I need to pay attention to this.
but like what a nice
So
surprise.
I know. Thank gosh. Like, oh my gosh. I just, yeah. just the walking disaster over here. But yeah,
That's
so he did
okay.
really well at that race. And yeah, he did awesome for me. And thankfully it all just panned out because as any barrel racer knows, the whole D system, and like I always say, it's a crapshoot. You kind of just have to enter and hope that you land in the right spot. And he did for me that day. So I really love that race and I'll definitely be going back. It is a long ways. And I kind of said to Cody, my husband, this last time, we drove down and it's hard to be away from home for that long. So 3 days drive and then I had a day off and then the race.
Mhm.
And I kind of said, I think I need to have a few more days in between because my horses were definitely tired. Like,
Yeah.
you can't blame them. It's a long drive. So probably spread that trip out a little bit longer next year, but
Mhm.
it's definitely one of my most favorite events. So it's a
Mhm.
cool one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just being in that atmosphere, I'm sure is incredible of all the best of the best horses and seeing everyone perform like, yeah, that's a goal. That's a goal of mine. We have two. I think do you have a Born to be Famous? Is
Yes,
that you?
that's what
Okay.
Claude is. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we have one as well and we're in love with him. So I'm like thinking if I'm going to breed one of my horses cuz our born like ours that we have now, he's pretty killer and I'm like I need another one of these in our lives like
Yeah. I really love mine a lot. So he's a cool dude.
Mhm.
I've seen a few other ones. He has a full sister out there too, and she's also a badass. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's some nice ones around. That's for sure.
What's the dam side on him?
He's out of a Lane's Leinster mare.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's bred phenomenally and he's really well built and he's got a lot of talent. And I
Mhm.
mean, he was just designed to be an athlete and it all worked out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, he was a struggle in the beginning when I first got him, but he's come a long ways. And I mean, now he'll be turning 9 this coming year. So he's at the age now where consistency is a little bit stronger and,
Mhm.
got kind of the young horse things worked out. So
Mhm.
he's a very nice horse. I'm really lucky to have him.
Yeah, good. And also, I find like when you have some struggles when you're first getting them, like, I mean, I usually have futurity horses, and then after that, it's like you struggle a little bit. And then, like you said, when they become a bit older, then it's like, oh, this is such a nice feeling to have like a consistent, open, strong horse finally.
Hmm.
And yeah, definitely
Yeah.
a lot of things you learn along the ways with working with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, because they're so young as maturity horses, I think we forget because so many of them are such insane competitors at 4 and 5 years old that they're actually still babies. I
Mhm.
mean, 4 and 5 is young.
Mhm.
And um, it's different too when you look at like the rodeo mentality because so many rodeo horses are older. I mean, it takes them a while to get to the point where they can run in those environments and travel that much to be able to handle it. And so, talking to my friends that are rodeo girls, oh, 10, that's so young. And I'm, God, that's ancient. And, for a
Yeah.
lot of trainers and stuff, but really it's not
Uh-huh.
that old at all. So,
It's
that's
true.
of learning to appreciate them at those ages too, especially in contrast to the young ones that are a little more unpredictable. So
Mhm. For sure. If you were to take a choice, like, would you like, do you wanna eventually do rodeo mostly or keep futurity on the back burner type thing?
honestly, I think if I was smart, I'd probably do more of like the big barrel races and the maturities, but I love rodeos. So I want to win the world in the WPRA. That's what I want to do. Is I want to go to the NFR and I want to be a world champion. So that's like my main goal out of anything. But it's also one of those things that it's kind of, it's in the plan or it's not. So I'm going to work as much as I can towards it and hope that it's in the cards for me. But it takes a very specific horse or group of horses to be able to do that too, because
Mhm.
I mean, I've had some really great athletes, but I mean, you're competing against the best in the world and then have to haul a million miles, and it's just kind of an insane sport. But yeah, so I'm just, it's out there, it's out in the universe. I'm putting the energy out, working towards it, but that's what I really want long term. But I also am really enjoying these big incentive races and stuff too. So will I be able to do both? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Just kinda, I guess, like you said, just kinda keep showing up every day and having that big goal and working towards it in whatever way it looks like, and hopefully
Hmm.
eventually it comes true. And
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think a lot of
So
it as well is just what you're saying, like just with what you're doing for working and you're, I guess, living in an RV right now, which I think is
yeah.
awesome. But that's all like a part of it. And I think some people, they kind of think, oh, like you're so lucky not to be tied to a 9 to 5, or you're so, like lucky to be able to have this freedom. But it's kind of like you created that, like you're creating that path to achieve those dreams, right?
Yeah, I think there's like a balance with that because people, you're so lucky. And I don't ever want to say that I haven't been blessed because I have.
Mm.
I grew up with a really great childhood and amazing parents that were always so supportive of my dreams. My husband is awesome. And luckily, him and I enjoy doing the same things, like even though it involves living in an RV for the winter. But, you know,
Cool.
so it's right. It's kind of like a balance of that. I think you create the life that you want. And there's risks with that too. I mean, being self-employed, I love it and it's great, but you don't always have that security and the continuous flow of money like you might with a 9 to 5 job. So it's like, are you willing to give up
Mhm.
one thing for the other? It just kind of depends what you want in life. And we also don't have kids either. I think that changes things a lot. We live in a smaller house at home, an older house too. So it's just sacrifices where you can make them to achieve what you want.
Mm.
So I don't know. Everybody has an opinion. And I think a lot of the time when people go, oh, you're so lucky, it's often that maybe they're too scared to take the leap or feel that they can't to do something else that they want to do.
Mhm.
But that's on them.
Mhm.
So, and a lot of people are happy with what they're doing, if it involves that 9 to 5 job and being a parent or
Mhm.
whatever, everybody's dreams are different. But I think really people sort of miss out on things because it's like, oh, I'm scared to leave this, is what it really boils down to. So,
Mhm.
again, I've been very blessed and, I'm sure my path has been maybe a little bit easier than others. I have, like I said, had a really great support system growing up. And even now, I'm with a really supportive partner that is awesome and really helps me towards my goals too. So I do have that going for me, but it is choices at the end of the day. It's what it all comes down to.
Mhm. Mhm. Did you always kind of feel like that you would regret not doing it? Like, it was that a bit of your push for pursuing it and not letting the fear maybe stop you? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And, like life for me took some turns that I just never expected. And it was sort of like, okay, well, now I really have nothing to lose because I've gone through some of the worst things people have to deal with, and we all have we all have hard things that we've gone through.
mhm.
But again, it comes to, what do you learn from that? And for me, it was like, okay, well, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So
Mhm.
why not go after what you really want? Because, you either try and fail and then decide if you want to keep trying, or at least that, okay, well, I made the effort and it's not right for me.
Mhm.
So, I think I'm more scared of regret than I am scared of everything else.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of a go after what you want and just, I don't know. No one really knows what they're doing anyways. Like, people ask me about starting a business and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm halfway to where I want to be with my business goals, but honestly, you just figure it out.
Mhm.
Action is way more important than planning. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
obviously maybe have an idea of what you want to do, but
Yeah.
you just have to make an effort and go
Mhm.
towards it. You can study something forever and never get anywhere. So, making the effort and taking action is so important. And I think people forget that.
Yeah. I think those are pretty much like the two main components to anything. Is like have the understanding, have the vision, and then just take action. Like
Yes,
unquestionable
absolutely.
action. Like,
Yeah.
like no thinking, do I feel like or this or that? Like I'm kind of big into wanting, like for me, a lot of this all stems from feeling like I have to do things difficult. Like I have to learn the hard way or I have to achieve things in a hard way. It's not like I always feel like some people get things really easily and I'm like really happy for them. Like that's awesome. But for me, it's like I have to go through trenches and take tons of turns and detours to like get to the same idea. And that's really been a huge motivating factor of like wanting to educate, wanting to learn, wanting to push myself out of the comfort zones. Cause it's like when you do that outside of, for me it's horses, like same idea, same goals there, like wanting to be the best I can and hopefully that takes me to really high standings like in the world standings of anything. So it's all still like how we talked going back to the beginning of how it all relates from the outside world, our day-to-day lives of improvement and how it completely transfers over to ourselves with horses. And just that
Hmm.
connection is so strong and it's so powerful to, if we're not afraid in our day-to-day lives, we're not going to be afraid of performing. And going down the alley, we're going to be confident and, all those things that just completely relate back and forth, I think is like so key. And same with you, it's like I'm not afraid of like the fear as much. Like I'm okay to like take the action, but I'm like more afraid of being old and not being able to do it and having the regrets that Like, why didn't I do it?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing to learn from, you know, older people is that they'll never tell you that they regretted trying something.
Mhm.
Like it's regret of not doing something or thinking they weren't worthy or whatever. Like
Mhm.
that's what people regret. So, you know, take a lesson from those that are in a different stage in their life and go, okay, so what can I do to feel like I really lived a fulfilled life when the end comes for me?
Mhm.
So, you know, and I think we owe it to the world too, honestly. We owe it to the world, we owe it to God, we owe it to the people here to be the best version of ourselves
Mhm.
and to go after the things that we really want, because living cautiously is not going to serve anyone, yourself included.
Mhm.
But I think you can make waves and make a difference in the world if you go after the things that, you know, we all have a gift. So find what that gift is and use it.
Mhm. Mhm. So true. I love that. And it kind of goes back to like that community aspect where I'm reading this book right now and it does talk a lot about it's not just about like our own self, it's really the ultimate goal is how that we can help others also attain
Yes.
their own version. And I think when you have that outlook, it's like stop focusing on you and the things you want. It's like how can you kind of like serve others and help others? And I believe even if you don't have that success that you want, but I think if you keep that going, it will come
Yeah.
eventually for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like there's a balance in that. You know, you have to be motivated from the inside,
Mhm.
but also it has to be about something bigger than yourself.
Mhm.
You know, I think we can all, and I feel like people maybe don't think that whatever they're doing is making a difference, but it is. It just, you know, it doesn't, you don't have to be Oprah like we,
Mhm.
you don't have to be Oprah to make a difference in the world. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to have a huge community and a TV
Mhm.
show and everyone know who you are.
Mhm.
You know, you can make a difference in a handful of people's lives. And maybe
Mhm.
that's what your life mission is. And that's wonderful.
Mhm.
So, you know,
I
just
always
finding out what that is.
Yeah, I always the perspective of like, let's say, for this podcast, people are like, oh, I only have 100 listens or only 100 people listen. But it's like, if you put 100 people into a room and you're able to impact those people in a good way, and they're able to leave that room feeling more sure of themselves and just better, that they're able to also serve the humankind in a better way and serve themselves better, like that's huge. That's a
Yeah.
huge
It's a ripple
effect.
effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it all starts small too. You know, I think if you stick with things, you'll
Mhm.
start to see
Mhm.
you can, you know, the ripple effect is small in the beginning, but it's like it just amplifies as time goes on, you know, and that something like a followership or whatever will grow as time goes on as long as you stick with it. You
Mhm.
know, nothing happens overnight. I think that's the biggest mistake people make is that they go towards something and don't stick with it long enough.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm guilty of that too. It's like we live in a world of instant gratification. We want everything right now.
Mhm.
And I can very much relate to that. But you know, nothing comes overnight, and anyone that you look at that is an overnight success has been working at it for 10 years before they were that.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's
Yeah.
just sticking with it and realizing that you are making a difference, even if it's small in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, you know, yeah, just
Exactly.
keeping with it, I think.
Mhm. And again, how that relates to horses, it instantly made me think of training a 3-year-old to barrel race. Like, you
Yeah,
have to stay consistent and just, like you said, like, it doesn't happen overnight, and I think that patience and knowing, like, you're gonna show up every day and work on it, but it's not gonna happen in one day. And
absolutely.
yeah.
So you know, and I think horses are such a humbling experience
Mhm.
because, you know, it depending on the horse too, some come on faster than others.
Mhm.
And the ones that take time, it's like, but it's the same as humans. Like not everybody is, it's like going to school as a kid. Some people get it right away and some don't.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that, you know, you're not going to be successful in the long run. It's just going to take a little bit longer, maybe, or also kind of a different way to make it happen. So, you know, they teach us a lot in that way too, I think, is that, yeah, that's where the patience thing comes in too.
Damn patience.
Oh my gosh, seriously though.
Yeah, keeps it interesting though. Like I love it though. Like just I found just like what you said, just about feeling really blessed with that and having, like you can feel that gratitude and feeling like really thankful for the path that you're on or the path that you were on that got us to this point right now in this moment. And it's just kind of also, realizing like how important those little things were
Hmm.
living here now. And like being here now, you're like, wow, like, that patient thing, like how important that is for everything and how horses really are a great way to teach us and how, we can be so grateful to be able to have that.
Yeah. Well, and I look at hindsight and like some of the horses I've had along my journey. I'm like, oh God, I wish I could have them now because I could have done them so much more
Mhm.
justice. But that's part of it, is doing the best you can until you know better and then do better.
Yeah.
And so, or even things like knowing about vet work stuff, like horses that were difficult in the past. I'm like, oh my God, that one was a bleeder, or this one definitely had ulcers. I didn't even know what that was 10 or 15 years ago. So, it's just one of those things. It's a constant evolution. We're always learning, and, thankful for the horses that put up with me when I really didn't know any better. So.
Right. I know, looking back, it's like, oh man, I'm so sorry I ruined that horse, like without even meaning to. But yeah, like just what you said, you only know what you know, kind of. And as long as you're willing to learn more and educate and have that open mind, then like you said, it's just an evolution. So it's so key. That actually kind of makes me think, for you, where did this even start from? Like, let's go to the beginning. Where'd the horse
Like
love come
horses.
from? Yeah.
My friend down the road had a pony, and we
Say
had
no
pony
more.
rides right. We had pony rides at my 5th birthday, and that was it. Like, there's a picture somewhere of me sitting on this pony in a princess dress, and my mom's like, this is where we went wrong, right here. And so I would walk down the road to go, ride her pony with her all the time. My parents could not get me to leave that place. And then when I was 7, I think it was, I'd started to take some riding lessons and that kind of thing. And then they bought me a pony for my birthday, and it just amplified from there. So I started riding English, and where I'm from, that was kind of more of the common thing. And my parents are not horse people, so they had no idea. I don't know even how they found a coach, but I rode English for a while, did that. And then we went to our, at the time, Kelowna had a pro rodeo, and we went to watch that, and I saw Miss Rodeo Canada and the barrel racing. And I was like, that's what I'm doing now. So
I want to go.
I wanted to be a rodeo queen, and I wanted to be a barrel racer. And so I started to barrel race my jumping pony, who tolerated that. And then eventually I got a barrel horse, and it just kind of kept going. So again, I had really great people along the way that helped me a lot. Like, we bought my first barrel horse, who was like 20 years old and just was the best thing ever. He ran barrels and poles, and I did like the play days and stuff on him, and he taught me a lot. And then when I was ready to get more of a real barrel horse, if you will, that lady that owned that horse was like, okay, well, if you're buying this horse, then you're going to have to high school rodeo, which I didn't even know was a thing. Neither did my parents. And so she really helped us with all of that too, and showed us what it is that high school rodeo is and how you get into it and all that. And then I actually just was telling someone the other day, my first year of high school rodeo, I qualified for nationals. And we had to drive all the way to Illinois. That's where it was. My poor dad, who's like, he just figured out how to drive a truck and trailer, and was like just doing it with me. And then it's like, oh my God, we got to go to Illinois. And it was a 4-day drive to get there. A whole bunch of us convoyed over from BC, and it was great. So, I had a lot of support from my parents, who really were like, they were just learning as they went, and kind of supporting me along the way. And I'm grateful for that. But that was sort of the beginning. And I college rodeoed for a year after that. And then here I am. So yeah, it's just kind of been a evolution as time's gone on. But yeah, I don't know, it's cool to see where you start and where life takes you. So
just reminisce on that journey. And like what you said just with your dad earlier about driving you to the pink buckle and how he did that again. I think that's so cool. Like, you're going to look back on that and always have that memory and cherish it.
I know. I'm so grateful he did that, because, well, one, I really did need another driver. I mean, I think I'm pretty good about the driving thing, but that's a long way.
Yeah.
And then also, like, I haven't hardly got to see my parents at all since I live in the US now, and then they live in Canada, and like all the COVID and border stuff. I mean, I've probably seen them 2 or 3 times in the past 2 years. So, and I used to live on the barn above their place, and I'm really close with them. So that's been really hard. So to have him come down for that was just a little extra special, because I haven't got to hang out with him at all. So really grateful that we got to do that.
Cool. So you'll be going back to Canada in this summer, or you're planning on staying down?
Who knows? I kind of just,
enough.
Playing it by ear. The world is so turned inside out right now. It's hard to know what's going to happen. But my parents are actually going to fly down. So they're going to come down and see us in Phoenix in, I think, February. So that'll be really good to see them. That is the nice thing about being here, is that it's not that hard to convince your family to come visit, because it's very
So
nice and good
gorgeous.
to get
Yeah.
away in the winter. So
Uh-huh.
we'll get to see them, which is awesome. But yeah, I'd love to go back to Canada and do some of the rodeos and stuff up there and also get to see my friends and family because I haven't got to do that very much. But
Mhm.
it's just going to be one of those things. We'll just kind of have to wait and see how
Mhm.
all of it pans out because it seems to change day to day. So
Yeah, no kidding. See, whenever it happens, right?
yeah. So
Oh,
like keep saying, I'm like, I can't stay like this forever, but
right.
here we are years
After
later.
2 years, it's like, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh, this is still a thing. Okay.
good to
So,
know. Good to know. It's like I'll
right.
just be in the bar and ignoring it all for right
I
now.
know it's, yeah. Well, we were saying that too when everything, the world kind of shut down. I mean, our day to day didn't change a lot.
Mhm.
My husband and I both work from home.
Mhm.
And our businesses are like, not that my clothing business is considered essential, but it's all online based anyways. And then our other businesses are considered essential because they're agriculture.
Mhm.
So, I could still ride horses at home and we
Mhm.
still kind of had to keep working anyways. So that didn't change a lot for us. But, in the grand scheme, obviously life's been different, but
Mhm.
it's one of those things kind of out of your control. So just sort of have to roll with it.
Exactly. One of the other lessons learned with horses is the whole control aspect and knowing
Hmm.
what you control, what you don't control, and letting go of the things you don't control because, like, what's
Well,
it gonna?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obsessing over those things will make you crazy. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. Well, I think our time's gonna be running out soon, but I just wanna, man, I love this conversation. This has been great. Just finishing off, do you have any final words that you'd give listeners or some piece of advice that you wish you heard before that you want to share?
I think the biggest thing that when it came to the horse industry that was a game changer for me is Ryan Padon's a friend of mine and I was her intern 4 or 5 years ago. And the biggest thing that I stepped away from that experience of staying with her for 3 months is that you're capable of doing the things that you want.
Mm.
You just have to do them. And I'm so grateful because she completely changed my outlook on training on horses and what I'm able to achieve. I think everybody needs to hear that and really understand that if you know in your heart that there's something that you want, you can do it. And you're capable of achieving those things. So, don't let those little self doubts. I think they're going to come up and just say, okay, thank you for being here, but you have no place in my life, and allowing them to go away
Mhm.
and chasing what you really want because life's short.
Mm. Beautiful. That's awesome. I really appreciate and I've really enjoyed this conversation. Oh,
Well, thanks for having me on.
yeah, no problem. One more thing. Where can we all find you? For those that don't
Okay, so
follow you.
gotcha. So my maiden name is Kempf. So you can find me usually by looking up Maddi Kempf, Maddikempf. I go by Stoltman now, but sort of like in the weird limbo of being a half and halfer. So I'm Maddi Kempf on Instagram. I believe my YouTube is youtube.com/Maddi Kempf. And then the same thing, I think Maddi Kempf Official on Facebook. And yeah, would appreciate it. I'm really close to 10,000 YouTube
Mm,
subscribers. So,
let's get
if
that.
everyone wants to head on over there, it would really help a girl out. So,
Yeah. What are some of the
yeah.
things that you post? I know you do some of the life of barrel racers, but what else? What are
Yeah. So weekly, I do a vlog on Tuesdays. So I actually will be posting one later today. It's called Barrel Racer Life. So it's kind of about my life and barrel racing, the behind the scenes, that kind of thing. So that's my weekly YouTube thing. I was doing a Thursday video as well. But again, that whole like trying to do everything sort of got in the way. So I'm sticking to Tuesdays for now. So Tuesdays, I do that. And then if you follow me on Instagram and stuff like that, it's a lot of animal pictures. So I'm obsessed with my dog and cat and horses. So that's pretty much all you're going to get on there. The occasional inspirational quote, but generally speaking, it's a lot of animal things, some barrel racing and that kind of thing. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone listening, go check it out. I like the vlogs and I like that you're committed to being consistent as someone who struggles hardcore with consistency. I appreciate that.
important.
I'm
It's important.
inspired. Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. But again, back to the beginning, like if it's for that greater purpose and something you feel fulfilled doing, like it makes it a lot easier.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some days that it's like last week, for example, I didn't get home until 6 o'clock and like needed to go grocery shopping still and do all this stuff. I'm like, I have not edited my video yet. So, some days it is a struggle, but, you just have to get it done. It's one of
Mhm.
those things, make it a priority and
Mhm.
make it happen.
Exactly. Action. Take the action.
Yep, absolutely. So
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
you bet. It was great talking to you.
Yay.